if you don't want to get scammed, I really recommend you listen to this. You provide 50% of the work to get a good reading. A good reading is a good student. A good student understands that the teacher knows a lot, but they're discerning. They're not going to take everything in unless it's like a master disciple where the master has proven himself to be or herself to be somebody who is extremely kind, extremely enlightened. You know, one of those masters, we're talking just about teacher-pupil here. On a teacher-pupil thing, which is really what I would consider, or a guide and follower, any kind of spiritual interaction on the mass scale, you do have to understand that as the student, you should not take everything the psychic, the spiritual advisor, or anything we say verbatim. You should always filter everything we say, even this video right here, with your own heart. This is not necessarily your own ego, your own mind, your own trauma, but your own heart. So your heart is the only way to navigate this. I always find, because there's a lot of insanity in the world, I always find that your heart, connection to Source Creator, connection with your heart chakra, is the only way to almost maneuver the maze of insanity that surrounds us. There is a thread of sanity if you listen to your heart. It might not be what we say. Your heart may say something completely different. It doesn't mean you have to bash us. It doesn't mean you have to rip up your life to shreds because your heart is saying to do something. Your ego can pretend to be your heart. But I'm just going to show you how to do it. So whenever you're going to work with somebody new, or even anybody you're working with right now, you're going to really listen to your instincts here, whether they're a good person to work with or not. Because even if they're a good person, they might be perfect for another person. They just might not be good for you. This isn't individual by individual basis. You really have to take into responsibility, past the testimonials, past the accolades, past the respect and grandeur they have developed in their industry, person by person, healer by healer, if they work for you. That is your job. Because if you leave that up to us, somebody's going to take advantage of that. You can't expect all of us to be good people. You really have to know that there are sharks everywhere. This is self-defense in the spiritual realm. This is applicable in any part of your life, but I'm going to apply it here for spiritual workers and yourself and keeping yourself safe. So you're basically going to, do a form of meditation. You're going to sit somewhere quietly and just breathe. And you're going to pay attention to your heart. Most of these meditations are heart-based meditations because your heart is just so wise. So I always find it useful for people to put their hands over their heart, to breathe into their heart, to bring their awareness to their heart. Not necessarily your heart organ, but your heart area. This is the heart in your light body, even if you want to look at it like that. So this is very important because your heart is kind of your discernment of what's going on. It will always know, if you're truly tapping into it, what is going on, because it can read energy. You don't have to read energy, it reads energy. It's really profound. So what can be going on is somebody can look perfect. Somebody can look let's flip this onto me for a moment. I can look like I know what I'm talking about. I can tell you, I've been doing this, blah, 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 blah. You should trust me, blah, blah, blah. I know everything. But if something in your heart is saying, I just don't trust her, then don't work with me. And don't even watch the videos then, probably. But if something in your heart is saying it's okay to follow along with her, then, continue. This applies to anybody. And again, it's not even that you're maybe rejecting me or whoever it is as a person. It could just be, this is the wrong information for you to hear at this time, ever, or it's the wrong frequency. You need to tune into somebody on your frequency, because I only talk on a few frequencies. So, you need to really listen to your heart of whether or not this person is good for you. There are 3 criteria: good for your physical body, good for your emotional mind, and good for your spiritual health. You always want to make sure it's all 3, because somebody might be very aware spiritually, but really, really toxic physically. And that will feed into their readings. So this is somebody who has to be on the path or developing, or ideally has developed, an ecosystem of health around them. That way it's a full being of advice that is being pulled to you. They will understand that spiritually you might be ready, but physically you might not be ready to hear the information. You know, this is a balance here. It's a real art to do this. This is not just somebody, you just trust anybody on the internet to give you a reading like this, because you're putting your life in their hands for a brief amount of time. Almost, I would say in the beginning, come at this from a form or a perception of mild skepticism. I would prefer that than more openness. The reason why I would prefer mild skepticism is I would rather you be ruthless in who you allow and who you don't allow into your life as a spiritual healer or psychic than being too open and then finding out they fucked up. Because in the spiritual realm, when we're working with you, we are getting very intimate with you on an energetic level. I am basically like entering your energy field. I'm not looking up things that I'm not supposed to look at. We're very respectful. Most of us are very respectful. But it's kind of like if you were a cloud of cosmodust and we're a cloud of cosmodust, we're kind of just like, this section here. We're just kind of like peeping in, being like, hey, okay, you need to do this, and then we'll leave. We're not doing any kind of merging with you, but we are kind of dancing with you. We're touching you energetically. So it's intimate. Do not think that this isn't intense. This is the same thing as working with a physiotherapist or working with a physical healer for a long amount of time. There's hand-on-hand contact, body-on-body contact. They're right there helping you physically. They're getting up in your space because they need to get in your space. We are getting into your energy. We remain respectful, but we're getting into your energy. And for the case of healers, they're politely tweaking energy. But I've been with really good healers and they do it in a very gentle way. It should never feel like they're like ripping you apart. Like, it's like the good healers are like gently just kind of like taking away stuff. So, it might take some trial and error. You might work with somebody and be like, I didn't like that. And you should share it. I recommend, there's a huge community on Reddit, you can post it here, of bad experiences you had and why you found it bad, because it is a real problem, these sharks in the industry right now. They are taking advantage of so many people, and these people unfortunately understand that there's something about the spiritual world that they vibe with. They want to get the right information, but they keep getting burned. So I really wanted to provide this as assistance for anybody who has had a scam happen to them. That's really unfortunate. I'm so sorry that's happened. But, I've been scammed through makeup fields. That really sucked. So after that, I was really careful about makeup industries that I worked with. I made sure, is this reputable? Like, are they lying? And do research on the person. It's your right to do so. Or interview them beforehand. So again, you have rights here as a consumer of spiritual healing practices. Know your rights. Your rights are that you're allowed to ask us questions about how we do things. You're allowed to ask us about the ethics that we have. What will we do and what will we not do with you? What are our boundaries? What are our feelings towards working with somebody with your history? What experience do we have with your history? Like, you are allowed to interview us before we work with you. And I think that's a fair trade, because you're basically allowing us to enter your energy field, your life. And it's a big thing. If you're working with a therapist, you do a meeting first before you decide to work with them. It's the exact same thing with us. And it's a bit sketchy here because there are no educational accolades that we can give to you to give a standard of ethics. There are no university things that anybody cares about. There's no real courses that anybody gives a crap about. We're just kind of, it's anybody saying it's like anybody saying they're like a mathematician. It's like, well, did you study it? Like, are you, what way did you study it? Like, these are things that you have to study formally, but there's no real class that you can say you studied under. So we're all just kind of being like, oh, I'm spiritual. So I just want to be really clear about that, where you really have to be mildly skeptical, and then when you have when you trust them, then you can open up to them fully. And I would say that if it's a good psychic, they'll respect that you're asking them questions, they'll be patient with you, and they'll understand the severity of the importance of you asking your questions and feeling heard. Obviously, if you're going to ask a million questions, we're probably going to have a boundary of like, oh my God, maybe try somewhere else. But like, you know, be realistic, like 4 or 5 questions that are, you know, interview questions that are realistically based and applicable to the situation. I think that's fair. So I hope this was helpful for you. You can definitely share your experiences below. I don't want this to be a place of blame, like this psychic that I'm calling out, like don't do that. Don't call anybody out, don't, you know, unless they're like a known scam, like more be like, these were the traits that I noticed about them that I will watch for next time, or they crossed my boundary here, or I worked with this person. If it's somebody you like, definitely post them in the comments because that's a good thing. You know, I worked with this person and they were really helpful and this is why. So I'll do that as well. I'll post in the comments below people that I've worked with and why they were so good to work with, and people that I didn't like to work with and why I didn't like to work with them. And this will basically build you the tools of discernment of whether or not you should or should not trust somebody. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean anything about them. It's not saying anything about them personally. This is just really, really important for you to understand. So thank you so much for watching. I also have a new website up called aqualay.com. If you're interested, there's going to be free courses on there. There's a forum on there. There's articles on there. There's basically all these tools to help you either activate your lightworker abilities or basically find your own magic. There's one-on-one stuff you can look at. So there's so much on there. I sell art on there as well for helping you ground your activations into the physical realm. So you can check that out if you feel compelled to. If not, you know, I'm always on YouTube. And I look forward to seeing you guys around and, you know, hearing your comments below.